Imagine wandering in an unknown desert aimlessly. The sandy ground beneath your feet so unfamiliar to the touch. Every brush and tree is a stranger to your sight. The dry air is foreign to your taste and smell. As you continue on this journey, every step leads you more closer to solitary, being pulled forward to uncertainty, only because what's behind you feels like danger, a threat you can only perceive as evil, like a spirit stalking you viciously without cause. The only way to escape is to push forward. Your senses heighten with every step. You soon realize you are leaving tracks behind you, and this unrelenting, unforgiving evil behind you is tracking your every footprint. You believe the only way to escape is to zig and to zag. Far in the distance, mountains and heavily wooded areas. Only in here could be your chance to evade your stalker before entering the forest ahead. The brush beneath you grows thicker. It makes it harder for you to traverse, as if slowing you down on purpose. You begin to feel the fatigue as you enter the dense wooded area. As your body begins to slow down, your senses have heightened. Feels like oceans separate you from civilization. Stranger to everything surrounding you, every tree and limb, becoming more evasive to your space, causing claustrophobia. This is when you begin to panic. Your body begs you to run, but you don't know which direction leads to safety. The sun, exhausted from the day, begins to retire. The warming presence shifts swiftly with the wind. The clouds begin to shroud the last remaining light, and leaving you with a cold sense of uncertainty and morality. This is one of many scenarios poor Aidan Clune may have experienced as he was suffering from some kind of mental health issues. On April 27th of 2022, he wandered into the vast Nevada desert, never to be seen again. Minnie and myself have been searching tirelessly for 2 years looking for Aidan Clune. Only clues we have are from search and rescue notes from past searches. Alleged footprints discovered days following his journey into the desolate mountain range. The biggest question is, why did Aidan decide to wander off into the unfamiliar without logic or supplies? So many stories of the missing pop up every day, and so many get overlooked. Although each missing person is as important as the next, and only a slim few eke their way to the spotlight. Aidan Clune had grown up in Sonoma, California. His mother, Amy Clune, was there for him. But unfortunately, his father was not in the picture as much. Becoming a teenager, he was growing up to be a fine young man. And just like many, when we were his age, had flaws and fears of what's next. But in 2021, he had just graduated and now had his whole life ahead of him. But sadly, with a recent death in the family, someone Aidan was close to, Aidan felt like he needed a new start, new scenery. This led him to leaving Sonoma on a last-second whim and traveling to Salt Lake City, Utah. Unknown to his mother and family, Aidan was beginning to suffer from some kind of mental health issues. It's unclear what exactly was going on, but upon arriving in Salt Lake City, Utah, to stay with his grandparents, he began to show signs of paranoia and more. After a conversation with his grandfather, Aidan was not being rational and sped off in his truck, now heading west on I-80. This highway led to northeastern Nevada. Aidan would stop there, staying the night at this Motel 6 in the town of Wells. On April 27, 2022, Aidan Clune woke up early and checked out. With the highway close by, he took his truck south on Highway 93, traveling approximately 52 miles into a town called Curry. Aidan abruptly pulled his truck over, unknown as to why he did so, perhaps to take a bathroom break or to clear his mind. Taking his acoustic guitar with him, Aidan likely had not wandered far from the road, leaving his passenger door wide open. meaning he had likely had every intention of returning back to his truck. At approximately 9 a.m., a highway patrol officer saw the red Nissan truck and pulled behind it. It looked abandoned. It's unclear where Aidan was at the time, but it's quite possible that Aidan Clune could have been close by. But because of his recent mental health issues and recent signs of paranoia, Aidan may have saw the trooper with their lights on and may have thought he was in trouble and perceived the trooper as a threat, and the only way to safety was to travel into the vast Nevada desert. Aidan would never return back to his truck that day, nor did he make any contact with anyone. For Amy Clune, this is when the true nightmare of a mother looking for her son began, knowing something was off, but sadly a day behind on Aidan's recent travels. Since Aidan Clune was in another state, his mother had a tough time retracing his last steps. It wasn't until the following day Aidan Clune was declared missing. Search and rescue would be disbanded the following days into the vast desert valley of Curry, Nevada. They would soon find Aidan's tracks leading from where the truck was parked, leading away into the vast desert. Not far from his truck, search and rescue found his acoustic guitar laying in the desert sand. Along with the guitar, more footprints were discovered. They led over what is known as the Palomino Ridge. Aidan was wearing Nike Air Force shoes that had a unique peanut shape and circular shapes on the tread. This was helpful to track, as these were not the average type of footwear one would normally wear in an environment like this. They would track Aidan over the Palomino Ridge into a wide valley. Beyond this valley was the Cherry Creek mountain range, full of brush, heavily wooded areas, unforgiving ridges, and peaks. As they continued following his tracks, they noticed some were odd and different to others. They realized that he would take off his shoes and either go barefoot or leave his socks on and walk for a bit, as his tracks changed due to this factor. Furthermore, his tracks would come to a T shape, meaning he'd walk a while, then stop, go left for a bit, then double back on his tracks, which meant it's likely Aidan was trying to throw off anyone who would track him. Even though search and rescue were days behind Aidan, it shows the mental state and possible paranoia Aidan could have been experiencing as he traveled deeper into the unknown and unforgiving mountain range. Search and rescue would eventually track Aidan into this valley south of what is called the burn area. They would lose his tracks after a while, or the weather would get too bad to track, and so they would get more and more behind as days passed on. But eventually they would pick up Aidan's tracks again and followed them into this particular valley that had a creek with fresh water that flows down the mountain into the valley for the livestock. Search and rescue found many tracks wandering all around this valley, some where Aidan was wearing shoes and others where he was barefoot. They would eventually find some tracks leading from the valley west up a steep ridge. From here, they found the last tracks, almost like he was circling a tree, just as signs of Aidan's tracks were plentiful and his presence known. It's as if the vast mountain range of Cherry Creek swallowed them up without cause. Aidan now became a ghost, uprooted from the earth, and now the only signs he was ever there was a few photos taken by search and rescue of his tracks. It's believed Aidan didn't have any rations or supplies or the proper clothing for this type of climate. Just a pair of pants, shirt, hoodie, socks, and shoes. Although this was the northern desert of Nevada, sadly, even in late April and May, with a higher elevation, the temperature can change on the dime from 70 degrees down to the low 30s, and with the wind factor, it can get really cold at night. Even snow comes down at this elevation during this time of year, adding more to the unforgiving elements poor Aidan would have had to endure. Not one sign of Aidan's clothing or himself has ever been found. He did have an iPhone, but no calls or texts were ever made that day or since. Law enforcement were able to get one last ping from his cell phone, but because there was only one tower, they could not triangulate it. only giving a large window between 60 and 65 miles due south of the tower. It's certainly possible that Aidan made it out and went into hiding ever since, but the probability of that scenario, sadly, is low. With all the clues and leads drying up, we decided we had to go back to the beginning and retrace all the steps taken by search and rescue and law enforcement, with some yielding new clues and leads, one of which was the phone ping. Aidan had Verizon, and even though his last phone ping was in a large 5-mile window, the more we have gone out there, the more we have learned that most of that area you can't get a signal with that tower with a Verizon phone. Only in seldom spots will you get a sliver of service. One of the biggest areas that you can get a signal is in this valley here. This is the same valley where Aidan's tracks were plentiful, but then suddenly disappeared. The other lead is the time of the last phone ping, 8:17 p.m., which sadly means he was likely still in Cherry Creek Mountain Range, as it was getting dark, and the temperatures were starting to drop rapidly. His last tracks were heading west on a ridge towards a peak. Could it be possible that Aidan made the peak and went over due west somewhere? Recently, we drove up to the last footprints and traversed the steep and treacherous ridge, only to learn that when we peaked the top at over 8,000 feet above sea level, it took us nearly 2 hours and we were exhausted. Knowing this now makes us believe he couldn't have had the energy to traverse that peak. Perhaps Aidan attempted to, but returned back into the valley after realizing how tough the climb was. From here, it would be getting dark and colder. Perhaps at this point, Aidan was now in full-on survival mode, either attempting to find shelter under a tree or doubled back from where he came from. But the question still lies. Did he ever make it back out? Unfortunately, Aidan Clune's mental health leading up to and on that day likely played a factor in his disappearance. We will never know what he was actually going through, and sadly, there are many other cases just like his where mental health played some kind of factor in their disappearance. We will continue on searching for Aidan Clune, as we feel like we could be getting close to finding answers due to re-examining the case and discovering new potential leads. If you would like to support this cause, there are many ways to in the description down below. Other ways is to share this video, leave a like, and comment about your thoughts on what happened to Aidan. Subscribe if you like true crime and updates on the latest cases. Thank you so much for watching.